At Vermont Daily Chronicle, we support your First Amendment right.
We also support your Second Amendment rights.
Chocolate vanilla twist with rainbow sprinkles. Come on down.
Hi, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, guy. How about you?
Doing well. Well, it's been another one of those weeks
Yes.
when who knew that the LA riots were going to be breaking out? And who knew there was going to be a No Kings March where Vermont would have the most rallies per capita of any state in the union?
Wow.
30 of them.
Wow.
That's right. And 3 in Burlington alone. And the No Kings Rally, for those of you who don't know, is the gathering of people basically in support of the idea of the LA riots anyway, and showing their opposition in general to Donald Trump, of course, who on tomorrow is having the Army Day parade, Flag Day parade, and they insist it's because, well, it's the president's birthday, so he wants to have a parade in his honor. And he says, no, no, no. And the Army says, no, no, no. But they say, yes, yes, yes.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think it's super interesting that Trump and the Army has the same exact birthday. When you think about Trump being, like the law and order president, like a lot of people view him like that. It's kind
of wonder if Ralph and Mary planned it that way.
Doubt it.
Yeah.
It's just interesting,
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes when things align like that, it's
Right.
like, that's interesting.
A 1 in 365 chance of that happening.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
right.
It's a good point. Good point.
Yeah. And speaking of which, Paul, yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about. But
yeah, there's some, I don't know. I think it's
is that someone's phone or something?
I think it's that camera up there. Sorry about that, guys. We're just having some like weird sound stuff going
Okay.
on. Let us know, by the way, if there are any issues with sound, lighting, cameras, you name it. And feel free to comment, guys. You can write below in the chat. You can type in like you would anywhere else. Let us know what you think of the show today. If you have any responses you want to share, we want your input. Definitely, we want to hear what you think of it. But anyway, with that, back
Sure.
to you guys.
Speaking of synchronicity on days of the year, a week from Tuesday, Paul, you and I will be on Rob Roper's radio show, where he's returning the favor. He's having us on his show on WDEV at 9 o'clock. And that is June 24th, which is also my mother's birthday, my parents' anniversary, June 24th, my cousin's birthday, my nephew's birthday,
Wow.
and the day that Colette and I got engaged.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so June 24th is a very big day
It's a special day
in
for
my
Guy.
life. Yes, it is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And speaking of special days, on Sunday, Father's Day, happy Father's Day.
Yes.
Everyone out there. Tim doesn't know this yet, I think, but he is treating me to a yak burger and a creamy on Main Street in Northfield. Some guy has opened some sort of jamoke kind of stand,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be eating creamies and yak burgers.
Hear that, Tim? Did you know that you were doing that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He knew.
He
knew.
claims to know.
Yeah, he knew. Well,
All right. Well, but the serious stuff here is we have the Vermont Democratic Party claiming that Paul Dame, the head of the Vermont Republican Party, saying that the LA riots are as bad as 9/11. But is that really what Paul Dame said? In fact, did Paul Dame say anything remotely like that? Hey, Paul, would you mind pulling up the evidence on that on both sides?
Yeah, of course. So this is the statement, and this was sent to me last night, and it kind of was one of those things when you read it, you're like, okay, here we go. This is happening. This is the statement. For those who are listening, I'll read it to you. In response to VTGOP Chair Dame and VT NRC Committeeman Joshua Beckover's shocking comments about the protests in California, Vermont Democratic Party Executive Director May Hanlon,
New hire,
yep, released the following statement. If you need any more proof that the modern Vermont Republican Party is simply a mouthpiece for the far-right extremist movement, look no further. This week, VTGOP Chair Paul Dame compared the demonstrations in California against the Trump administration's unjust targeting of immigrants to 9/11. Chair Dame's comments are outrageous and deeply irresponsible. It trivializes the lives lost that day, deliberately stokes fear, to dehumanize immigrants, and shatters any illusion that the VTGOP holds a balanced, moderate perspective on civil rights. So before we go any further with that, I want us to just focus quickly. So they're accusing two people here. They're accusing VTGOP Chairman Paul Dame of comparing the riots to 9/11, and then they're also saying, and we'll get to the Josh stuff in a second. So I just want to focus on Paul's comments. So here is a clip. This is from NBC, if I can pull it up actually here. So this is a clip on NBC of Paul Dame talking. I think it was earlier today, or maybe it was. Hold on, I can actually see. It was yesterday morning. Him basically giving his response to what's being said and the riots as a whole. So here's this, just one second.
Thousands of miles away in Los Angeles, the military has been deployed to keep the peace as demonstrations turn violent.
If you're going through the legal process, you have nothing to worry about.
Paul Dame serves as the chair of the Vermont Republican Party. He's been keeping up with the riots on the West Coast and tells NBC5 that people should be able to make a point without setting a major U.S. city on fire.
Especially when they disagree with their government. That's a fundamental right enshrined in our Bill of Rights. But once you start hurting people and breaking stuff, that's when it moves from a constitutionally protected protest to property damage and becoming a public danger.
Vermont Senator Peter Welch reminding people headed to the picket lines to leave the pitchforks at home.
It's very harmful in its own right and counterproductive. But the big issue here is what the president is doing is implementing this mass deportation policy where we're going beyond deporting criminals. We're going to workplaces.
Occasional.
Okay, so you saw Paul's statement there, what he said. So that was one statement that he's put out about the riots.
I didn't hear anything about 9/11 there.
I didn't see anything about 9/11 there. I didn't see anything.
No, don't break stuff and hurt people.
Nope, I didn't see that either. So then here is the second statement that Paul Dame has put out. This is on his Substack page. Paul produces, I believe, a Monday Substack. Every week he'll put one out. But here's what he wrote here. This is basically, this is a press release. VTGOP joined Senator Fetterman, a Democrat, calling LA riots anarchy and true chaos. So here's John Fetterman, what he wrote. He said, I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement. And again, I want to point out, you heard Peter Welch even kind of come out and say, hey,
leave the pitchforks at home.
Because they know that you don't want anything like this in our region of the country, right? And here's Paul Dame's response. This is what he wrote. He said, very few Democrats have demonstrated the bravery of Senator John Fetterman to stand up his fellow Democrats to assert basic standards of decency. I wholeheartedly agree that demonstrations and protests are essential tools of liberty in our democratic republic. I also join Senator Fetterman in describing what is happening in LA is bordering on anarchy and chaos. Democrats, like the ones who are ruling in California today, are losing the moral high ground, just as Fetterman has suggested, when they fail to fulfill some of the basic expectations of civil government, namely protecting the public safety. This sentiment is shared by many, as this post has now been viewed over 10 million times with over 250,000 likes. This should be a wake-up call to Democrats that many voters are looking for a return to the kind of sanity that Senator Fetterman is demonstrating. And if there wants to change its trajectory, They need to follow his lead and abandon the extreme voices on the far left that are leading to anarchy, theft, public destruction of property, and attacks on law enforcement. So that's Paul Dame. That's what he's saying. I'm not seeing anything about 9/11 at all.
You know, Mike Donahue wrote a great story on this woman in Virginia, social worker, who claimed that an ICE worker walked up to her and started like singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic or something like that, and accusing her of being an illegal alien. And she actually swore under oath. He told a cop.
Wow.
This. And then when the cop pulled the video footage and showed it to her, and hello, 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 nothing like that remotely ever happened. She said, well, I really think it happened in my mind. In my mind, I thought it happened. So I guess Mary, what's her name? The DNC chair?
What is her name? Let me pull it up here. May Hanlon.
So May Hanlon, maybe in her mind, Paul Dame said, oh, it was just like 9/11, but not in reality world did Paul Dame ever say that. So it's just a very irresponsible thing. You know, you want to have, of course this is politics. Of course they're posturing. Of course even, you know, the conservatives and Republicans were doing some of that with the Becca ballot,
of course,
butt wipe stuff.
Yeah,
last
well, it's
week.
the game. That's part of the whole.
But at least be accurate.
Yes.
In your facts and your claims about the other person while you're playing the game.
Well, of course, and that is what it is. It's a slime fest in some ways, you know.
Right.
And this is what we're looking at here. You know, the Becca Balin thing, of course, perfect example of slime ball. You know,
Yeah.
throwing
Yeah.
feces at each other. I don't know how else to put it.
Monkey poo. What can you say?
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect
Yeah.
example of what's being said. But so to build on this, and you know this part may be a little more controversial to some, but so let me just finish reading their statement. They said, worse still, Vermont NRC committeeman Joshua Beckhofer has called for the using of live rounds to disperse protesters. Advocating for shooting at civilians is shocking. It is fundamentally un-American. Beckhofer's rhetoric is extremely dangerous and even further highlights that the VTGOP has no sense of right and wrong. They support violent ideology that shows their ingrained prejudices against people who are not like them. Vermont Republicans are not even pretending anymore. This is not the party of civility or moderation. They are a party that embraces the worst instincts of Trumpism, cruelty, fear-mongering, and the politics of intimidation. We see it, Vermonters see it, and we should all call them out each time they show their true colors. So, what did Josh really say?
That's right. That's a really good question.
That's a really
Paul.
good question. And we have been searching, we've been trying to
By
find
the way,
it.
who is Josh?
Josh Beckover is the RNC committeeman. He's a young man. He's
He's
my age.
Vermont's representative on the Republican National Committee.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So he's somebody that was elected within the party to be
Yep.
in that position. And, you know, I think he does have a important role as
you
far as
bet.
that goes. You know, that's kind of a big deal, especially if he's by far the youngest one in the country. So, you know, it's no joke. So we've been kind of looking for what Josh said, and we've been unable to find the full context because at one point it does seem that NBC did have a video up with comments of his that he made. At least that's what I've been told, and I've been unable to find that video.
There's a Wayback Machine somewhere, but anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I will find it if I can,
Yeah.
and we'll find it, and we'll post his comments if we can find them. You know,
Yeah.
maybe he'll share them with me, but up to this point, I'm unable to find them. But here's what we do have, and this is NBC5, who of course you just saw their coverage with Paul Dame. He said, Beckover confirmed to NBC5 that the posts are real, but he says they lack context. Some of the posts made this week call the protests anti-American forces gathering like murders of crows in urban American centers. Another goes on to say, yes, I support dispersing these CCP agents with live rounds. About these posts, Beckover gave them a statement. He said, these screenshots being circulated from a private discussion on my personal page lack the full context of what was said. I was commenting in a broader thread about the limits of law enforcement response during violent unrest, use of improvised explosives, Molotov cocktails, cinder blocks dropped from overpasses. I've since taken the post down because it was clear as being misunderstood and used in a way that doesn't reflect the full conversation. Moreover, it's with the understanding that our law enforcement has their hands tied. It's unfortunate that only fragments of the discussion are being shared without context. That kind of selective presentation can easily distort the meaning. But Backover says he's taking the post downs because they don't reflect the full conversation.
So what the fragment we do have, what does it say?
He says, yeah, what we have here, it says, yes, I support dispersing these CCP agents with live rounds. Anti-American forces gathering like murders of Crow in American urban centers.
So my other son, Joe, my middle child, will be the first to tell you that a group of crows is referred to as a murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh wasn't saying murderers and crows. He was saying a murder as in a gaggle, a flock. The technical name is murder of crows.
Yes. Well, here's I have a comment here from Libby Moyer. She says, why aren't you press corps guys questioning NBC integrity on their research and lack of citing 9/11 and publishing and broadcasting that claim? We're not
Isn't that
saying
kind of what we're doing.
We're not saying that NBC. Yeah, first of all, that is what we're doing. But
Yeah.
we're not saying that NBC didn't publish that. As far as I know, I'm looking. I've looked as far as I can. NBC didn't say that. It was the Vermont Democrats who said that.
That's right.
Who just said it out of complete. I mean, no context. If you read that. Right? If you're just a Vermonter, unsuspecting Vermonter out there, and you read that statement, you're shocked by it. But most people aren't going to dig into it and try to figure out, hey, what's actually being said here? Did they actually say this?
And if you have to stretch or make up a claim about someone and assert something that's untrue to them, what it really means is, I got nothing. They really had nothing. They were trying to say something critical here. They got nothing.
Well, and the larger point, again, pointing at us, Republicans, like whatever, conservatives, pointing at them saying, you're violent, you're the ones who are extreme.
This is a good point. And why would they do that, Paul? Why would they want to be doing that?
Because it's projection. It's ultimately projection. What it does is it says, okay, actually is it even our people, right, by the way? Is it even Democrats, or is it just a bunch of angry, chaotic, illegals, gang members, Antifa, right? Yeah. So those are the real violent criminals here. They're the violent people, not ICE or law enforcement for trying to stop these riots from happening, right? And they're pointing the finger at Josh as if he's the bad guy. Josh isn't out in California right now burning cars and shooting people. And I mean, they're not shooting people, thankfully, right? But look, at the end of the day, I think if you're a private individual and you own a store and you have somebody coming in trying to loot your store or trying to hurt you or do anything to you, you are well within your rights to stand your ground. That's America, man. And I don't know if the laws are the same in California, but I know that's how it is in Vermont. So
right. The least amount of necessary force that you need to prevent damage to yourself or your property.
Yes.
And which is what cops, and for that matter, soldiers to some degree, are trained to do. Which is, if someone throws a brick at you, that is not carte blanche to shoot the guy.
Yeah.
But it is, maybe, there are times justification for firing over their heads, a warning round.
Yeah.
If your life is being continually imperiled by concrete or rockets or whatever.
Yeah, it's again, the point is it's pure projection.
Yes.
And they're trying to obfuscate from the reality, right? Notice none of that post says anything about property taxes, education reform, right? It doesn't say anything about the fact that Vermont has the third highest tax burden in the nation. They're not talking anything about the real issues, which maybe we should talk about the real issues. Enough on this political garbage, guy.
Yes,
My
in fact,
goodness.
The reason May Hanlon got her job in the first place is because Jim Dandino, the previous guy, managed to preside over, his one job is to get Democrats elected.
Of course.
And Paul, you and I sat here on that night in November and watched the red wave just destroy the Democratic supermajority in both the Senate and the House. And that was on the Democratic Party apparatus. Their job was to keep that from happening. So May Hanlon got a job because someone had to roll, and it was Jim Dandenos. And so I would think, I would think they would be trying to stress, here's what we are really trying to do to make sure you don't get a property tax increase. Here's what we're trying to do to keep our health care costs down, which they actually have. There have been a couple bills that they've taken some leadership on that hopefully anyway, they think, will be controlling our health care costs a little bit. And they had a big press conference on it a couple of weeks ago. So that part at least they're sort of trying to do. But Governor has had speaking of the education thing, I went yesterday to the conference committee where they're trying to work out how do we keep our property taxes down and what are our schools going to look like? How are they going to be funded? Because the reason the legislature hasn't adjourned yet is they can't make up their minds on that. So the House was sitting on one side, the Senate on the other. And the Senate says to the House, we want action now on some approved tuition for independent schools. Because there's Linden Institute and St. J Academy and Sharon and Burr and Burton and all sorts of schools they're private schools, but really they're the local high school. And the House was not all that interested in that because they're not crazy about independent schools for two reasons. First reason is ideological, which is they want to be able to tell them, you need to be totally on board with all the gender identity stuff, all the DEI stuff. And the independent schools are saying, wait a minute, we'll take your tuition money, but frankly, don't tell us how to run our schools. So that's the one thing. The second thing is, if you're a teacher in one of these schools, are you a member of the Vermont NEA? Well, the answer is no, you are not a member. If you're at St. J Academy or Linden Institute or something like that. So the unions are thinking, well, who needs these independent schools? They're not paying our union dues. They're diffusing our power, diffusing our money. So you have, as you always do, anytime there's intransigent, we will not move, there's an ideological reason and there's a money reason. In this case, independent schools are in the crosshairs of both as far as the House in the NEA is concerned.
Okay.
So there was supposed to be a press conference. The governor had a press conference. In fact, I signed you to go to it, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm glad you didn't go because it was canceled.
I saw that email too, don't worry.
That's right.
I was...
The noon press conference canceled. And they said, we're going to have it at 2 o'clock though. I said, okay, well, 2 o'clock, perfect timing for us. We're going on the air. Maybe they'll have a deal done. Maybe the governor will be able to say, we've got something.
Breaking news.
Except they canceled that one too.
Yeah.
And now it's supposed to start at 3. Is it 3 o'clock yet?
It's 2:57.
Well,
Tim,
is monitoring the situation. And if the governor comes on and says, we have a deal, or if they bump the press conference back to 4 o'clock, we'll know that they don't have a deal. So anyway, we're sort of waiting on the whole school funding thing. And right now, are they going to be coming back on Monday as scheduled? Tell you yesterday, tuition thing, independent schools wasn't the only thing. They were still really far apart on how much they're going to pay per student and other things. So they've, unless they decide that, okay, we're going to bear the hatchet and do a deal here, it's not looking good.
So we do have a couple comments, Guy. I think
good.
we should probably read. I have one from Pamela Griffin. She writes, I agree with him. I believe she's referring to Paul Dame. Regardless of what party, or maybe she's referring to Fetterman, regardless of what party we belong to, violence is not solving anything. VTGOP writes, Kamala Harris' speech January 6th will echo in U.S. history like Pearl Harbor and 9/11. So who's really comparing things to 9/11? I wouldn't even compare the riots to anything like that, honestly.
It's ridiculous.
It's just riots. It's just like
And it's not even George Floyd level. It's
No.
basically I look at the footage and I say, well, basically there's kind of a fairly small group of a few hundred people, some of whom are throwing things and shooting off firecrackers. And what's the big deal, especially with the National Guard around now and with the cops. I think the LA cops, they dithered for a few days, and then once the National Guard came in, they said, okay, we're taking control of this.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something, the LA cops, I used to be involved in another form of civil disobedience, and you did not mess with the LA cops. They took this stuff extremely seriously. They're like NYPD.
Got it.
Do not mess with the LA cops.
Or NYPD for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You are not smart if you really go up against them.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think the civilians, the political leadership, were holding them back for a while, and then they stopped holding them back, and the LA cops kind of took over.
My alarm's going off on my phone.
Okay.
I apologize for that, guys.
No problem.
Well,
Time to get up from your nap, Paul? Is that what that is?
That's exactly what it was. That was from yesterday's nap, and now I just had a timer.
No kidding.
No,
I
you're
was just kind of yanking your chain.
No, dead
but-
serious. I took a little nap yesterday afternoon, and I set an alarm
Good.
for it, and now it's going off right now. I'm wide awake right now, but.
Good siesta.
Well, it's just back to the point about the riots, though. It's like, do these people not even need a George Floyd anymore? They just, whatever it is, we're just gonna.
College is out.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders goes on Stephen Colbert and says, we've got to take to the streets and do whatever we have to
Yes,
do to get
yes.
it done.
That's right.
And the Antifa types, wannabes anyway, supposedly that's going to get them out. Except that, I don't think there's really that much enthusiasm, especially since last night, since the air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And since the bombs are falling in Tehran, and we're once again, kind of on the brink of a nuclear war, of literally Armageddon,
Yeah.
an almost biblical Armageddon.
I agree.
And suddenly, some senator crashing Kristi Noem press conference,
Oh,
and
yes.
a bunch of Antifa types being all big and bad in L.A. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's all that important anymore.
Well, yeah, it really did kind of seem to fall off. It's funny how everything's so interconnected, though. I've been thinking a lot about that. Now that you bring that up, this was another thing I wanted to mention on the show today. This is a statement from Bernie Sanders yesterday, responding to the whole. Here, I'll just read it to you.
Please.
Tragically, the outrageous assault on Senator Padilla today is becoming a normal behavior for Trump administration, which is moving us towards authoritarianism. The American people do not like petty tyrants. We defeated King George in 1776. We will defeat King Donald. So,
What do you
here's
make of that?
Moreover, he adds, Trump is attacking the judiciary, he's attacking the media, he's attacking law firms, he's attacking universities, he's attacking immigrants, the poor, and workers in every corner of this country. And today, they handcuffed a senator from the largest state in the country. Again, the American people do not like petty tyrants. We defeated King George in 1776. We will defeat King Donald. So there's that.
Well, Bernie, my great-great-great-grandparents did. I'm not sure about yours.
Yeah.
But no, we in the sense of the American people. That's very true.
Absolutely.
And I got to say about these rallies that are planned for tomorrow, the No King stuff. I've been looking at what they have planned, and I'm actually kind of impressed. Really, I'm impressed. I mean, the banners show they're waving the flag, and it's not the Palestinian flag, it's not the pride flag, it's the American flag.
Good.
And they're talking a lot about, we want to be rallying for against monarchy and everything. And Donald Trump even himself is saying, I'm no king. You know how hard it is to get anything done around here?
Yeah.
But the point is, we're all kind of in agreement there.
Yeah.
No one wants a king. We all want I guess we all want a constitutional republic.
Yes.
And so I'm actually, part of me says, I could without looking too close, I could walk with these people if that's really what they're saying, which is we love the flag, we want the rule of law. Yes, Tim?
Press conference is starting. Update live.
He's talking about being bold, blah, 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 so I'm waiting.
Being bold.
Well, we're trying to figure that out, guys. I'm going to go to an
Breaking.
ad.
Governor Scott's talking about being bold. Okay, Tim, when he actually,
Just started going over the thing.
okay,
Well-
when he says,
Breaking news. They've reached an agreement.
wait, we got that?
Perfect. Hold on.
There is an agreement?
Well,
I'm going to
So-
see if anyone's
so,
issued
folks,
any press
if
conference.
you're
on this.
listening now and wondering what the heck is going on.
And what agreement? You fill them in, Paul. What
If
are
you're
you talking
wondering what the
about?
heck is going on, Governor Scott's hosting a press conference right now, and he's breaking news saying that the education, finance, the conference committee, and the governor, they've reached an agreement. It sounds like.
I'm not sure about that. He just said reached an agreement.
Well,
Hmm.
why don't you wait a second and
Wait to
update
see
when
if
you
it
know
passes
more.
Next week.
We're going to go to an ad real
Okay.
quick. Today's episode is brought to you by Randmar Corporation. Randmar Corporation has been serving central Vermont and surrounding areas with excavation, construction, and real estate services since 1979. They're a local, family-owned company committed to the values of Vermont. Contact them today, Randmar Corporation, for all of your contracting and real estate needs. So, again, Randmar Corporation, thank you so much for being one of our sponsors. It means the world to us to have sponsors. And if you are somebody out there, maybe you want to sponsor us. Maybe you run a small business, you run a plumbing business, or maybe you're a T-shirt company. I don't know what you do, but consider supporting us financially. We absolutely, especially this time of year, no elections going on right now. The session's winding down. People are kind of, taking off for the summer, if you will. So if you're not already a sustaining subscriber to the Vermont Daily Chronicle, you absolutely should become one for just 30 cents a day. That's $9 a month, $108 a year. You can support free speech here in Vermont. If you like what we're doing, if you like the context, the content that we bring to the table, the different perspective that not a lot of other media sources in Vermont are offering. For example, we were the only outlet in the entire state that covered the Becca butt wipe comment, for example. So if you're out there viewing and you like what we do, please consider subscribing and smash that like button, hit that retweet button, hit subscribe, send this to an email, send it out to everybody. We want you to help us get the word out. So, and just going back, Guy, to the whole conversation about these protests. I think you're right. I hope and I do agree and believe that this is about America. Yeah, do you want to go, Tim?
Tim, do we have a breaking on this?
They haven't reached the end of the road. However, they have made some compromises, and they're getting stuff together so they can present it next week when the legislature returns.
Thank you. So there is a compromise bill.
It is very workable. It's not perfect, but it looks like it's workable.
And the governor says he thinks it's workable.
Yeah. And
So
he
basically, if you have the
specifically
Senate and the House and the governor all saying it's workable, it is almost definitely going to pass. Any details on it, Tim? That's probably a bit in the weeds.
I mean, I don't really know nothing really like detail oriented on this.
Okay, well, maybe by tomorrow's issue we'll be able to get get a little bit more granular on that. But it looks like we have some sort of agreement in the works for school funding and governance.
And they specifically mentioned the independent schools being an important factor to.
So they came up with some sort of agreement, it sounds like, on the independent schools. Interesting. Okay, well, Tim, maybe in 5 or 10 minutes, put together whatever else you learn and you can give us an update. Okay? I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, you're totally okay. This is always exciting to have something like this
Yeah.
happen while we're live on the show.
Right.
We kind of knew that it was going to happen, and I think both of us kind of wonder, should we be there? But it's okay. We're here. We're talking
Yeah.
about all sorts of good stuff. But what I was going to say is, Guy, I want to believe that these people love America and they love the flag, and that's what this is about. I have a hard time believing that, and I also think a lot about what they're saying about Trump being authoritarian and how he's like this crazy evil dictator. I think everybody forgets that over the last 4 years, and really from 2020 to 2022, we were locked in our homes. We were forced vaccinated. Yeah. The economy was shut down. And why? Well, because of a virus that came here. Where did it come from? It came from China. And again, there's also all the fentanyl coming across the border. There's real insurgency here, right in our country, as we're witnessing, by the way, in Los Angeles, of people that are enemies to our nation, and they don't care about American people and American families. And I think that the people in Vermont, and I know that it'll be peaceful protesting tomorrow. It won't be violent. Maybe they'll be swearing and vulgar signs and that kind of thing, but it's not going to be, let's go brick down people's buildings and burn cars. And Vermonters aren't like that. Vermonters are not like that. But I think that because we live up here in this state, we're so isolated from the rest of the country, and I think that just completely waters down our perspective on the real threats and real violence and real problems out there. There are real enemies to this nation out there, truly, that hate us and would love to blow us up.
So I'm hopeful that this will be just peaceful rallies. And I think in almost every place that I can think of, the one possible exception, I would say, maybe possibly would be Burlington. There's 3 separate rallies. They're all going to be meeting down at the waterfront. And our editor-reporter of the Burlington Daily News, Colby LaMarche, has just reported that as of this week, maybe yesterday, the Burlington Police Department put a fence around their 1 North Avenue Police Department property, around the police station. And the reason given was the city council approved it because of that guy with the meat cleaver who went in and tried to kill a cop who went in the building, and the Black Lives Matter people having some sort of very heavy-handed rallies there several years ago. But you got to wonder if the timing of we've set up this fence just a couple days before the No Kings rally. Maybe it's at least kind of lucky timing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Guy. And I will say I lived in Burlington during tumultuous times, and I did see, they'll protest, they'll leave a bunch of garbage everywhere. I would be pretty shocked to see these kids. I mean, UVM kids, say what you will about them. I think most of them are pretty good-hearted people. They're not evil. They're not violent. But hey, maybe there's other people up there in Burlington that shouldn't be there, and they might be. So similar to what? I'm sorry, Tim.
You should try cooking for them.
Yeah. I actually did.
Tim used to cook at UVM.
I did. I just made some creamies yesterday for a bunch of Reefbergs people. They came by the store. It was pretty interesting. Yeah.
So it looks like what's going to be happening. The governor's saying that there are definitely people on the left and the right who are probably not going to vote for this. However, this is supposed to be, quote, kind of provisional at the moment, because the idea is that over the next session they will have time to iron out the details. It's still too high. The base cost is still too high, at least for him. However, it is still something that is workable enough to be the first step of this transformation plan.
So I've got some insight into this.
So the details are in flux, kind of by nature.
Yeah, so this is just a real broad strokes, folks. Don't read too much into this. When I was talking with one of the Republican members of the conference committee on Thursday, he said, look, we're going to pass out something. We're going to send something to the legislature. Whether they like it or not, I don't know, is what this guy said. So this may be that the governor himself saying a lot of people on the left and right aren't going to like it. You got to wonder if they're going to, some of them just say no, or if they will kind of hold their nose and say yes, but don't hold me to it, kind of thing.
Sure. Well, today's episode is brought to you by Procter Gas. Are you a homeowner wishing to convert your home to propane gas so you can enjoy energy efficiency living and off-grid? Alternatively, you may be a contractor seeking propane tank and line installation services for your clients. Either way, our propane company is here to help. We provide comprehensive services and a variety of products from leading brands in Rutland and beyond. Procter Gas, I got my Procter Gas hat on at this moment. Judy Taranovich, hope you're out there watching us today, or maybe you're watching some other time, but this is a message from the past to you, future Judy. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and thanks for being a supporter. We very much appreciate it. Yeah. We do have a couple of comments I think we should address here. This is from Kirk Miner. He says, word is out on George Soros funding the organizations planning the No Kings events across the country with $7.6 billion. Isn't that funny? Everybody's all upset they're spending $53 million or something.
It's not billion, 7.6 million.
Well, that's it. It's only 7.6 million across the country.
Emir.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave that point aside. I heard Trump's paying himself for a lot of this military parade. Like really? A large percentage of it he said, I'm paying for some of this with my own money.
Well, you know what? He donates his paycheck to things that like, I bet you that his monthly or yearly paycheck is probably going to this.
Part of it anyway.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But here's another one. Kirk Miner says, the legislature needs to scrap the battle on global climate change and spend $1 billion to fix the school funding crisis.
Right.
See, again, it's funny how all these problems are interrelated. Mm-hmm. You know, we've created this complex web of silly ideas and silly things that don't work, and it's really not working. Yeah. And you know, like the Clean Heat Standard or the Global Warming Solutions Act. How about the EV mandate being removed too? Woo-hoo! By the way, I love to see that yesterday. That was great.
So the story there is California had a law or a regulation that said can't sell gas-powered cars past 2035. Vermont decided in 2006, whatever California decides, we will do. We hitch our wagon to California Star. So when that came along, well, I guess we're going to do that too. The president signed I don't know if it was a bill or a regulation or something yesterday saying, out with that whole California regulation. Just, it's gone. Forget it. And so then the question is, and I've got an email into the governor's press secretary, is, okay, does this mean Vermont is done with that? Or are we going to appeal it or do it on our own or something? I got to think that this is the perfect out, certainly for the governor, who doesn't like the idea at all, who supports fighting climate change, but in a more sort of market-based, organic way. And I think, frankly, a lot of the legislators, the closer 2035 comes, and they're going to have to be telling their people, actually, you can't buy that car. Sorry, I know you really want to buy a new RAV4, but look at this electric over here. Oh, yeah, the one you can't actually drive for more than 200 miles before you have to charge it for 8 hours? That car? Yeah.
It's funny. It's all, just to share just a little thing, it's like, you know, my family ran Bean Chevrolet in Northfield, Chevrolet dealership for 50 plus years, and part of what we do, and this is maybe a little advertisement actually, part of what we do is storage, vehicle storage. So if you need to park a car somewhere or park it in a lot, we'll charge a certain amount, and people can do that. Funny enough, we actually have our first electric vehicle that's ever been in our building now in the building. We have a Tesla there, and it's just so symbolic to me, at least in terms of the current era and how things have gone for this period of time. It's just so funny to have a Tesla in the building. You know, to me, it's like, whoa. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is a real sign of things changing. But I gotta say, Guy, I think as we continue to go down this path, climate policy and climate change ideology, the climate hysteria, the fear-based, that whole thing, with my generation and below, I think we're finding increasingly that people just ain't buying it anymore. Right. And when they're aware of other things that are happening, and maybe that maybe the narrative is not so good for society. I don't know. What do you think?
Good point. I do think that ideologies any movement will sort of crest and then fall.
Yes.
It's like a wave. And I think we're definitely in the downhill side of that wave in terms of sort of national, hey, this is a big deal. Tim just showed me an interesting graphic that the governor is now predicting savings of hundreds of millions of dollars through this education stuff over the next few years. Don't think he really detailed that, but
Not specifics.
not specifically, but that's just some of the stuff that I'm sure will be kind of fleshing out over the next week or so. I'm sure on the floor of the legislature, they'll be kicking that around, actually.
Got it.
The governor did say that he and his team will be putting together information to give out to the Republican Party and caucuses.
Oh.
And he's trusting that the Senate Pro Tem and that whole side is going to be putting things together for the Democrats as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully by next week we'll have something more concrete.
Right. Okay. So there's going to be more information being shared on that this coming week.
Yeah.
Great.
Right now he's fielding more generalized questions.
Right. So one of the other parts besides the money here is, are we going to have these like 5 school districts in the state or 30 or as many as we have now? The whole governance thing. Paul, I found out something today. I just shake my head, smack my head, really. These unified school supervisory unions with school boards, like Harwood and Montpelier's, their school board members have weighted votes. Like your vote as one of the 13 members of the board is worth 6.7%. And someone else is worth 8.5% because they represent proportionately more people. So there's no longer a, 4-3 vote on the board. There's some sort of weird percentage that happens when you put them all together. And I got this from I was at a community news service conference this morning, and one of the editors of the Mad River Valley newspapers was explaining this to Senator Andy Perchlik, Washington County Senator, and he said, "You got to be kidding. I never heard of such a thing." I guess he's not on the education committee.
Wow.
I don't know. But yeah, so that's going to be just one of those little details.
Talk about a way to make it so that rural voices are less amplified.
Yeah.
You know, like if that were the case where you had this big unified school district and, you know, the little towns that they're just not going to have those folks,
Right.
the members won't have as much of a say.
Congratulations. Your town has 0.08 of the influence.
That's pretty scary, actually.
Yeah.
Especially, we do have another comment here. This is from Kirk Miner. He says, according to the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, ANR, Vermont is spending a combined $500 million in the state and federal funds this year on climate change, mitigation, resilience, and adaptation projects, and has spent more than $1 billion over the past 5. I don't know. That's kind of a lot of money, guy. It seems like maybe we could cut. They
spend $500,000 a year. That's a good rule of thumb on climate stuff because they count it all up. And we spend. They proudly proclaim we spend $500 million a year on climate change stuff.
Well, that's pretty crazy to me, though, to think $500 million on an issue that. What a waste, guy. Oh man,
some of it is our money, some of it's federal money, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. But today, we probably should go to another ad here.
We should.
And speaking of firearms and live rounds, today's episode is brought to you by Perro's Gun Shop in Waterbury. Explore an unparalleled selection of firearms complemented by their exclusive indoor firearm range, the one of its only kind in Vermont. Elevate your skills with their comprehensive professional training classes tailored to every level of expertise. At Perro's, they're dedicated to providing exceptional service and expertise for all of your firearms needs. And I always love to show off our shooting photos, which actually somebody wrote to me and said, you got to stop doing that. You got to stop showing that. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe don't do that every time. It's like, but I like to. It's like, it's a good memory.
Too. I'm sure we could get some more fascinating footage.
Yes.
Maybe we should go there again.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Maybe we should. I don't know. What else could we do, Paul, that would be equally outrageous?
We could go hang out with the Air Guard and get some pictures with the F-35s. Ooh. I don't think they'd let us do that, though.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I actually want to take a ride in one, though. I had a bad experience.
Not allow Guy Page in the cockpit of a flying aircraft.
We gave Tim, for his 13th birthday? 14th birthday, some flying lessons.
Oh, yep.
And I decided I was really nervous. And back then, when I got really, because I was in the back seat, right, of this Piper Cub. And I decided, since I was really nervous, back then when I was nervous, I ate a lot. I ate a lot of candy. I ate an entire large bag of licorice. And so there I am in the back of this Piper Cub, and we're swooping around and going up and down, and I'm getting there sick. And I had my mother's camera with me to take pictures. The only thing I could puke into was my mother's camera bag.
Oh my goodness, Guy.
So not only did I look like a fool, but I've already told you how wonderful my mother was. She was incredibly understanding about all that. So anyway, yeah, I think I won't take that free ride in the F-35.
Yeah,
thank you.
Maybe not. Maybe
we could stand next to it and look cool.
That would be cool. I don't know. We'll have to see. Well, more on that, Guy. We'll think.
You're too tall to fit into the cockpit.
Am I on the F-35s? I think I could.
They do like him short.
They do, yeah. For egress.
Yeah, I mean,
for egress.
Because Tom Cruise is short, you know.
You know, Tom Cruise is not really a pilot, or is he?
What?
Is he really a pilot? What? You know what? He might actually be. Now that I say that, not a jet pilot, but like I'm pretty sure he does all his stunts and stuff, like a lot of them anyway, for real. But well,
Larry Ellison, the guy who founded Oracle, had his own fighter jet. He flew it under the San Francisco Bay Bridge.
Really?
Yeah.
How did he get that?
An Italian Army surplus or an Air Force surplus.
Wow.
And being, the mega millionaire, and he just pulled it off. And
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So Tom Cruise apparently has been a licensed pilot.
Yeah.
Private pilot license since 1994.
Okay.
And has a helicopter license.
So if you didn't just hear that, Tim just told me Tom Cruise is a pilot and has a helicopter license. So to answer the question, everybody, yeah, he can fly airplanes. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he can fly jets even. I don't know.
They're going to make a Top Gun 3.
Are they really?
They are, yeah.
They're going to, of course they are.
Yeah.
They need that. My brother, who was in the Air Force, he loves that movie.
Oh, yeah?
The newest one? Oh, my God. He made me watch it with him. He's just like, yeah, it's awesome. We got to watch it. It's so good. It's like, okay.
I think it was so cool. I was watching some scenes from it this week. Yeah, it was great.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Maureen Heck, she said, yes, Tom Cruise, born on my birthday. Another synchronicity there for everybody paying attention. Maureen, born on my birthday, Jersey boy, is a pilot. I think Maureen is as well from Jersey or New York City. Please, I don't know. Don't be upset with me if I'm wrong on that. But, well, guys, is there anything else that we should discuss today? I know there's a couple things more we wanted to talk about. Do you have anything?
Yeah, so I went to this community news service conference this morning, talking sort of about the state of media. And one of the, for good or for ill, things that's going on is the legislature is dipping its toe into funding and financing Vermont media to the tune of Andy Perchlik, this same appropriations chair I was telling you about, appropriated in the big bill, which is out of the general fund, our taxpayer money, okay, $100,000 for community radio stations, which would be maybe not such a bad idea, equipment so that small towns will be able to, in case of flood or emergency, would have their own little radio station that says, here's what's going on, get to the high ground,
sure,
or whatever. So, okay, worse ideas. Not WDEV and other stations, they're pretty good at broadcasting all that stuff. But, you can see how from a flood and catastrophe resilience thing, not such a bad idea.
Sure.
The other thing was $50,000 for grants for this media project, that media project, in small doses. And guess who the judges are who get to hand them out? The people who actually dispense the money. Oh, that would be the Secretary of State. That would be one of our elected officials.
Is she going to put her name on the big check?
I don't know. Maybe. And someone else, I guess, is sort of making the decision. But the and they had at this whole conference this morning, they were honoring 4 media heroes: Lieutenant Governor John Rogers, Secretary of State Sarah Copeland-Hanzas, and two other elected, Andy Perchlek and one other elected official, someone from the House, I think. And I was thinking, boy, when is the media, how have we gotten into the business of holding special celebrations honoring our heroes of the people we cover?
Yeah, that's very strange.
What's up with that? And I did ask him, I asked the question, so aren't we at all worried about neutrality of coverage? Am I going to be able to ask Andy Perchlek, for example, the guy who actually put this money out here, will I be able to ask him the tough question, knowing that maybe some of my paycheck comes from him? It's his decision.
Yeah.
And they all said, well, yeah, that's a good question, and I could see how that could be a problem, but we'll just make sure there's enough guardrails on it so that, that'll never happen.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, well, that's good intentions, but they know where that road heads.
I mean, you and I both know they're not doing this so they can fund us.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, Paul.
I can't, I mean, come on,
I wouldn't, more to the point, I wouldn't want it.
No, I wouldn't either. I'm joking.
Yeah.
It's nothing we want.
Who knows? If we applied, we might get something. But I kind of really want to have the old-fashioned. We are the media is sort of the loyal opposition, in the sense that we're loyal to the process, we're loyal to the country, but our job is to ask you, Mr. Elected Official, the tough questions that need to be asked.
Sure.
And not to carry water for you, which seems to be a lot of what's been going on the last 5-10 years.
Definitely. We do.
Oh, by the way, got some guff from one of the more liberal bloggers and columnists on our Becca Balin stuff.
Who was it?
I won't say. But it was somebody who said, boy, you're squeezing that one pretty thick, aren't you? I said, well, yeah, we gave us some coverage, but, and the thing that he picked up on the criticism of our commenters, he did not at all pick up on their real anger at her elitism, which is what we talked about last week. And that went boom, right over his head. Anyway, Paul, you were going to say?
Well, I was curious I was going to ask you, what did they say? And it does not shock me one bit. It's just like the riots in California. They look at nothing. They don't look at the whole story. They just think about whatever they're in their lane. They don't want to upset Becca, the queen of the craziness here. And I thought maybe that's a little rude, but it's kind of how I feel at this point, especially if,
well, that's right. He said that they're picking on her because she's a lesbian.
I mean, she's the one who's constantly calling herself a scrappy little dyke. It has nothing to do with that. It literally
I really don't think it does.
It really doesn't. And even if, whatever. It's people when they say stuff like that, they're grabbing on to whatever thread they have, and they're holding right onto it. They don't like Guy that story made national news and that we got credit for it. That's the whole point. The reason he says anything like, "Oh, you're really squeezing as much as you can out of that." It's like, we didn't squeeze anything. We didn't do. All we did was post the video, and that's the way it is.
The plump, juicy story just sat down right in front of us.
We don't. That's what I keep telling people. Like I really mean it. At a bottom line, it's like the reason that we have had the success that we've had is not because we're grasping for random things and just trying to make something that it's not. They give us so much.
Right.
It's easy. So.
Right.
We also are the only ones covering this story in Vermont media. Or
Yes.
We were.
We were the only ones covering it.
It's not surprising that yes, we got this one, since everyone else refused to cover this.
Tim, feel free to use your outside voice when you're sitting all the way over there.
We got to get him a mic set up. We're gonna
Yeah,
get.
we probably do.
I think we ought to get him next week. We're gonna have to do something about that because he does have a lot to add, and it's not we got to talk about that. But
Yep.
guys, I think this is a good place to wrap up the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody out there commenting, participating. I hope you enjoyed our coverage today. I had a lot of fun. Guy and I admittedly were feeling a little. Are we ready to do the show today? I think we did just fine.
Let us know what you think.
That's right. Please do. And thanks for tuning in again. And thanks everyone for watching, and have a great weekend.